Night in Paris. High above the city, the killer waits alone in an abandoned WeWork office overlooking a luxury hotel. His dim, barren sniper's nest offers a narrow view of the target suite across the street. Dressed plainly to pass as a German tourist, he remains still and patient. Days pass as he follows a strict routine. Yoga stretches, late-night McDonald's runs, and listening to the Smiths through his headphones. In quiet voiceover, he repeats mantras, no distractions, no improvisation, no empathy, emphasizing discipline and precision. This prologue immerses us in the mundane reality of his work. Long, sterile hours, all nerves kept in check by focus. After days of surveillance, the target, a wealthy man, finally appears in the penthouse. But he is not alone. Through his scope, the killer sees a dominatrix in leather beside him. Unflinching, he takes him and fires. After days of surveillance, the target, a wealthy man, finally appears in the penthouse. But he is not alone. Through his scope, the killer sees a dominatrix in leather beside him. Unflinching, he takes aim and fires. But for the first time, he misses. The bullet hits the dominatrix instead. The target vanishes as her body falls, shocked but trained. The killer reacts instantly. Time to exfiltrate. Alarms sound across the block. He dismantles the rifle and follows a pre-planned escape through the back stairwell. Blending into the crowd, he vanishes into the Paris night. All incriminating gear, rifle, shell, tools is carefully discarded in secret drops. Within hours, he is out of France. Under a false identity, he boards a flight to the US, heading to what he hopes is safety. The killer's next stop is his secret hideout in the Dominican Republic, a secluded beachfront villa meant for laying low. But something's wrong. The place is eerily quiet. Doors are open, furniture broken, blood on the floor. His worst fear is confirmed. Magdala, his girlfriend and companion in hiding, is gone. He soon learns the brutal truth. Two assassins came looking for him, ransacked the villa, and tortured Magdala for his whereabouts. At a local hospital, he finds her alive but in critical condition. Her brother, Marcus, explains she escaped the attackers after wounding one, crawling to a neighbor's home before Marcus got her help. Now unconscious in the ICU, Magdala lies bruised and bandaged. Seeing her like this sparks something rare in the killer. He knows this is the cost of his failure in Paris. Rather than disappear again, he decides to strike back. This is personal now. Methodically, he begins tracing how the attackers found the villa. A lead surfaces quickly. A taxi driver named Leo was seen near the house that day. The killer finds and corners Leo, who, terrified, confesses he drove two strangers to the villa, a huge man with a limp and a slim, short-haired woman. They had been sent to clean up after the Paris mess, to kill the killer and anyone close to him. With the information extracted, the killer coldly shoots Leo, tying off loose ends. Now he has their trail and he's coming for them. The killer's investigation leads him to New Orleans, where his longtime handler Edward Hodges operates. An attorney and a middleman for the failed Paris job, Hodges likely hired the brute and the expert to clean up the mess. The killer flies in, ready to confront him. At dawn, disguised as a utility worker, the killer infiltrates Hodges' upscale law office. Blending in with the morning staff, he rides the elevator up and slips into the executive suite. Inside, he surprises Hodges and his assistant Dolores. Holding them at gunpoint, he forces Dolores to tie Hodges to a chair, then bind herself. The killer smashes all electronics to prevent evidence or alarms, then turns to interrogation. Hodges tries to reason with him, but the killer wants only one thing: names. When Hodges refuses, the killer resorts to torture, firing a nail gun into his chest. He avoids vital organs, aiming to inflict pain, not death. But the torture backfires. Hodges dies suddenly, likely from internal damage. Furious, the killer turns to Dolores, the only witness left. Trembling but composed, she agrees to give up files on the brute, the expert, and their employer on one condition: make her death look accidental, so her children can collect life insurance. Moved, the killer agrees. She hands over the documents. In a swift move, he breaks her neck, then stages her death by pushing her body down the office stairs to mimic a fatal fall. He cleans the scene, hides or disposes of Hodges' body, and disappears, now armed with the information he needs. The killer has his next targets: the brute in Florida, the expert in New York, and the client who ordered it all, now engraved in his mind for the final act of revenge. The trail leads the killer to St. Petersburg, Florida, a humid coastal city where the man known as the Brute resides, an intimidating, physically imposing hitman, essentially a human battering ram. The Brute walks with a distinct limp, just as Leo described. The killer surveils his modest suburban home and confirms the target, a tall, muscular man with a dragging leg. The Brute lives alone, except for a large guard dog patrolling the yard. Expecting a brutal fight, the killer arrives prepared. Late at night, he creeps through the shadows of palm trees. To silence the dog, he tosses a chunk of beef laced with tranquilizers. The dog devours it and soon collapses. The killer picks the back door lock and slips inside. The house is dark and cluttered. With adjusted vision or night vision goggles, he searches room by room. Suddenly, a huge shape lunges from the shadows. The Brute. They slam into walls, smashing furniture and crashing a lamp to the floor. A vicious brawl erupts. The Brute fights with brute force. The killer with speed and precision. Early in the fight, the Brute knocks the pistol from the killer's hand and forcing a desperate close quarters melee. The fight spills into the hallway, blooded but relentless. The killer spots his pistol under overturned furniture and dives for it. As the Brute lunges, the killer grabs the gun and fires twice at point-blank range. One shot hits the chest, the other the neck. Blood splatters the bathroom as the Brute drops, finally dead. The killer, bruised and gasping, steadies himself. He is alive. The Brute isn't. Before neighbors or cops react, the killer moves fast. He grabs gasoline or flammable bottles from the garage, makes a Molotov cocktail and tosses it into the living room. Flames erupt, swallowing the house. As he disappears into the night, the inferno erases all evidence. In the distance, the dragged dog, now awake, barks wildly. The killer spares it and slips away unseen. With the Brute eliminated, the killer turns to his next target, the expert, the female assassin involved in the attack on Magdala. Her trail leads him to Beacon, New York, an upscale Hudson Valley town far from Manhattan chaos. The expert is refined, intelligent, and just as cautious as he is. Rather than ambush her, the killer opts for a direct approach. He finds her at a high-end restaurant, like thanks to intel from Dolores. Dressed sharply and calm, the expert isn't surprised. She already suspects that the Brute is dead. When the killer arrives at her table, she greets him like an expected guest. There's mutual recognition, two predators meeting for what both know will be a final encounter. Instead of a fight, she offers a drink, a symbolic last toast. Intrigued, the killer sits. In the restaurant's low amber light, they sip whiskey, a polite ritual before the inevitable. The expert speaks freely, questioning his motives, musing on the nature of their work, and subtly needling him about the mistakes in Paris. He listens in silence, eyes fixed on hers. She may be stalling, but she remains poised, elegant, and dangerous. After the drink, they exit into the cold night. Light snow dust the ground as they walk to a nearby park, silently agreeing to settle things in private. On a stone path, the expert suddenly slips and drops to one knee, wincing. As the killer steps forward to help, she extends a hand, but her other is tucked in her coat. He spots the glint of a blade just in time. She is trying to lure him close for a fatal strike, but the killer is faster. He draws his suppressed pistol and fires a point-blank shot to her chest. She staggers, stunned but perhaps impressed. A second shot drops her. The expert collapses in the snow, her blood soaking into the white. Her knife, a sleek, elegant blade, slips from her fingers. The killer stands over her a moment, then kicks the knife aside and walks into the darkness. She was skilled, but he was colder. So one target remains. All roads now lead to Chicago, where the shadowy client who ordered the initial Paris hit is based. With both hired assassins gone, the killer prepares for the final act of his vendetta, confronting the one who set everything in motion. The man in question is Henderson Claiborne, a billionaire venture capitalist. Claiborne hired Hodges for the Paris job, and when that went awry, he sanctioned the cleanup. The The killer travels to Chicago, fully intent on killing Claiborne, but this last chapter will play out differently than the others. Using the resources of his well-stocked war chest, the killer gathers intel on Claiborne's residence, a lavish penthouse atop a high-rise in the city. He has packages delivered to an empty unit a few floors below, taking advantage of anonymous one-line shopping. In a methodical sequence, the killer assembles a break-in kit from ordinary tools ordered online: drills, lockpicks, electronic gadgetry, inconspicuous items that arouse no suspicion. He knows the police may be on alert after multiple murders tied to the Paris incident, and the direct assassination of a high-profile billionaire would draw enormous heat. Still, he proceeds. Under cover of a snowy night, he gains access to Claiborne's modern fortress. Perhaps using a ruse as a courier or maintenance worker, he bypasses building security. Then, employing his tools and acrobatics, he slips inside the penthouse. Claiborne is at home, likely enjoying a late drink, unaware that death has entered the room. The killer steps from the shadows, gun in hand. Claiborne freezes, Scotch glass in hand, as the lean figure closes in. There's no monologue. The killer simply watches, weapon steady, as Claiborne starts to plead. He insists it wasn't personal. He never meant for anyone to be hurt. He only wanted the trail scrubbed. Not for Magdala to be attacked. It was Hodges who escalated things, he claims. The killer listens, expression unreadable. Then a surprise. He lowers the gun. The killer spares Claiborne's life. Maybe it's exhaustion, maybe restraint. Maybe it's because Claiborne is already broken. The killer leans in and delivers a cold promise. If anything happens to Magdala again, the next visit won't be merciful. Claiborne nods, shaking. Without another word, the killer vanishes into the night. No final shot, no blood, just a billionaire left trembling, and the ghost of vengeance fading from view. With his mission complete, the killer returns to the Dominican Republic to reunite with Magdala. The golden sunset bathes their seaside villa, a peaceful contrast to the violence behind him. Magdala, now healing, sits quietly on the porch, facing the ocean bridge. He approaches in silence and sits beside her. No words, no dramatic reunion. Just two survivors sharing a quiet moment. He takes her hand gently, showing a rare vulnerability. The camera holds on them. Two figures against sobbing palms and crashing waves. A world away from the sniper's nest in Paris. He was once emotionless, governed by routine.